Hey, welcome back to another Backyard Professor Chess video. I'm going to show the game that gave Fischer his World Chess Championship crown. The final game against Spassky. Spassky. Boy, you know, you got to know your chess history. Otherwise, it'll make it so that you don't know how to play this game, right? So, and I'm taking this from Frank Brady's book, Profile of a Prodigy. It's the very last game, game 90 on page 401. I don't know the PGN, but I'm sure it's well known. This game has been analyzed to death. I want to share some ideas for we beginners, for we amateurs. For those of us who want to improve our game, there's nothing better than studying Bobby Fischer, because he never quit using the basic strategies throughout his career. Very interesting. So this is worth watching. Spassky is white, and Fischer is the black pieces in this game. Pawn, king 4, pawn, queen, bishop 4. He's going to do the Sicilian defense. Knight, king, bishop 3, pawn to king 3, and pawn to queen 4. Pawn takes the pawn, and knight takes the pawn. So we're into the Sicilian, a few moves. This is the Paulson variation, Brady says. Pawn to queen rook 3, keeping the bishops out of the crossfire with the king. And knight to queen bishop 3. Spassky was behind. It was 11.5 to 8.5, and he had to have this win. So he is playing total out fighting chess. No draws now. He has to win. So this is for the whole kip and caboodle. Knight to queen bishop 3 and knight to queen bishop 3 and bishop to king 3. So they're bringing out everything they can just as fast as they can once they set up their pawn structures. Fischer's bringing out his knight. Spassky is developing very, very well. And now immediately, boom, Fischer is fighting for the center. And Spassky has an incredibly nice center. So that is why Fischer went here. You can't afford to give your opponent that strong of a center, because with everything connected with the extra space, he'll push up against you king side, center, queen side, whatever. So you must clarify what is Spassky's intention. In order to do that, let's clear the center. Let's at least get clear about how the center is going to look for the rest of this game. So he really does need to hit that. And of course, pawn will take the pawn, and of course, pawn will return the pawn. So here is what we're at move 8. Spassky castles. Bishop queen 3. Fischer is coming right out with his development, and now Spassky takes the knight. And the pawn takes the knight. So we can see these two squares are no longer influenced by knights. We now see how the squares here are influenced by the knights, and here. So the argument is these two squares, not these two squares. The bishop has this one covered, and the bishop has this one covered. Just so you can see that. And let's see. Pawn took the knight, knight took the knight, pawn took the knight. Bishop to queen 4, and now Fischer castles. Very good. Queen to bishop 3. Spassky's bringing everything out. It's got to be a win this time. No joking around. No mamby-pamby, no soft pedaling. It must be a win. And this is what makes great chess, isn't it? It really is. So king, rook, king 1, grabbing the open file. Spassky was a very good player. Don't kid yourself. Unfortunately, his reputation was marred because he's only known as the one who lost to the great American prodigy, Bobby Fischer. But he really was an outstanding chess player. We don't appreciate that as much as we should. But it's okay. Bishop takes the knight. You notice Spassky is fighting and fighting hard. What he wants to do, is break up the kingside pawns, but Fischer's not going to have any of that. Notice what Fischer's doing. He knows Spassky is going to fight. Let's swap the queens, because Fischer was the master of the bishops, right? So let's swap the queens instead. And Spassky says, okay, let's do, because the glimmer of hope in Spassky's eye is now the pawn has to take the queen, and it has created weaknesses in Fischer's kingside. So can Spassky pull this out? That's what he's hoping. Queen, rook, queen 1. Again, open file, open file. You can see Spassky is doing like Paul Morphy chess. As Ben Feingold on the internet constantly saying, he tells his students, and something I have been saying, and when I discovered Ben Feingold's vast, good, cool videos, and he is funny, he's a great teacher, he also says the same thing. Open files. Use every piece. We see Spassky doing this without question. He wants the win. This is how we should play all the time, in my opinion. Well, Fischer's not going to let him get away with that. Again, the Grandmaster response. Don't just give your opponent the open files. No, sir. No, sir. Not happening. Not here, not on my watch. Bishop, king 2, queen, rook, knight 1, grabbing the other open file. He's got a target, which will in turn give him another target because that's supporting the knight. Find a weakness, attack it. Build on your strengths of the imbalances. Open file, contested open file, open file. So here we go. This is a battle. That was easy, right? Not so fast. Just keep watching. Keep watching. Pawn, bishop 5. He's going to break up the queenside. There's no question about it. Knight takes the pawn here. A center pawn, mind you. Really interesting here. The fight for the center. Bishop takes the knight. Rook takes the bishop. Again, you're on the open file. Use it. The partial open file. Bishop takes the pawn. Check. Here is where Fischer pulls a really interesting argument here. Sacrifice the exchange to get up the exchange. And I said that wrong. He's not sacrificing the exchange. I said that wrong. Anyway, king takes the bishop, and here is where Fischer wins the exchange. He got the rook. So Fischer ends up with the rooks, and Spassky ends up with the rook and bishop. You know, that Fischer, he was a tricky duck, wasn't he? Bishop takes the pawn, puts his bishop on a good outpost across from the king. Where have we seen this before? Not only do we see Fischer consistently playing in open files, we see him consistently, when he can, coming to the opponent's 7th rank. That is powerful. Really. That is great chess. So, bishop takes the next pawn. He has annihilated the queenside of Fischer. He has a full queenside of pawns. Ooh, yikes. Very interesting, isn't it? Rook takes queen bishop pawn. Now Fischer gets to work. Bishop, rook to king 2. Spassky's going to challenge the rook, if he's not going to lose more material. So the rook takes the rook, and the bishop takes the rook, and now we're stuck with 4 pawns against 3. Fischer is down a pawn. He's got 2 free pawns over here, but he has the rook and Spassky has the bishop. And the field is absolutely, completely wide open. This has been a much greater, harder battle than I've given you, because there are a lot of variations, and I know there's a lot of analysis on this. I'll bet on the internet you can find some analysis. For my purposes, I just want to show you the basic caliber of what made Fischer so great. This endgame is extremely instructive. Bishop takes rook, rook queen 1, the center file. He's going to centralize. His threat is coming to here. Again. He wants to be on Spassky's 7th rank. Pawn to queen rook 4. Here comes Spassky. Can Fischer stop the march of the pawns is the question. You begin so by getting to the 7th rank and getting behind them. This is fundamental endgame strategy. Very important to know. Bishop comes to bishop 4. Nice outpost. Rook, what does the rook do? Get behind the pawns. Well, you can't take that one yet because of this one. That's right. But that means that he can't move this one. So Fischer has stopped the pawn movement. What do you do now, though? Because you only have the one piece? Wrong. You do not. You have 2 pieces. The king in the endgame is a fighting piece. Watch how Fischer uses this. Very nice. Watch how Spassky uses this. Very nice. King bishop 3. King king 2. Here come the kings. Pawn to king knight 4. Spassky wants to get as many pawns forward as he can. Fischer has the majority over here, so he can afford to press the pawn and let the pawn take the pawn at this point, because now he puts a stop to the pawns on the king side. So Fischer has stopped the pawns on this side and stopped the pawns on this side. And all he has is a rook and a king. That's really fun to look at. That is fun to play through this and see how he did this. That is incredible. Bishop to knight 8. Attack the pawns from behind, which is exactly right. Fischer simply puts his pawns on dark squares. Dark squares, because his bishop is on light squares. Pawns are stopped and his pawns are on dark squares. Spassky has no targets. Fischer with the rook can make everything his target. Interesting, huh? Very cool. King comes over to knight 3. King comes up to queen 3. King comes back over to bishop 3. Rook to rook 8. He drops down. King comes to knight 2. He doesn't want Fischer to come over into here. He wants to keep Fischer's rook over there. If Fischer had gotten here, it would have kept the king away and he would have pushed the pawn in. So that's why Spassky went back this way, because these pawns aren't going anywhere. This pawn is. So he wanted to keep Fischer out of the knight file, without question. So, king, king, 4. Here comes Fischer's king. Bishop comes to king 6. Nice little outpost. Doesn't do a lot. King to bishop 5. He's approaching here so that he can get rid of this pawn, or else force the king over so that he can push his pawn in. And the rook has the 8th rank. So there's not a lot of squares that Spassky's king can go to. He's already enclosing him in with just a king and a rook. Fascinating to look at, isn't it? Really interesting. So bishop king 6, king bishop 5, bishop queen 7, rook knight 8. He's going to take that pawn. Bishop king 6. No, he's not. He's going to cover the pawn. Rook knight 7. Fischer has an extra move because, unfortunately for Spassky, he's more or less in zugzwang. Everything he does deteriorates his position from here out. And it's a tough, tough situation. So bishop to bishop 4. Rook to rook 7, bishop to king 6, and pawn to rook 4. Fischer's going to push his pawn all the way down and in. So it was at here that Spassky, he put his move in the envelope. And it was bishop queen 7. If his king had been king rook 3, there would have been drawing chances. So the world championship was awarded to Bobby Fischer because he resigned. But his move was bishop to queen 7. So let's play this out. Let's see why Spassky would have resigned. He did resign. Well, let's see what would have happened had he kept playing and he had done that. This is one possible variation. Bishop d7. Pawn comes to h4, no question. King goes to g1. King comes to g4. Bishop to c8. Rook to a1, check. King to h2. He's running out of places to go, isn't he? h3. He's really cramping him on it now, isn't he? Bishop comes to a6. Rook goes to a2. King comes back down to g1. Rook goes to b2. He wants that pawn. Bishop comes to c4. Says, no, I'm not going to give you that pawn. Now the king takes f5. So there's one pawn down. Fischer now could have two pawns coming at him. a5, you may as well make the run for it. You have to make the run. King to g4, a6, f5, bring your other pawn into this. Bishop to d5 because he wants to cover the queening square. He's got the right color coordinated bishop with the pawn. Rook goes to a2. Bishop to b7. Support that pawn. Now you can push your f pawn to f4. So you can feel the pressure here. B may as well come up to b4. Push to f3. It's very, very tight and close at this point. Bishop to c8. Check. King goes to h4. Bishop to f5. Rook takes the pawn. Still another pawn here to go. The pawn comes to b5. Rook to a1, check to the king. King comes to h2. Now you can win. Here we go. Rook f1. Bishop at this point has to take h3. There's no other way to do it. You gotta do it. And that leaves rook taking f2 check. So the king comes back down here to g1. The king here goes to g3. Don't take the bishop because he'll take your rook and you can't do it. Bishop bumps down to f1. Rook comes over to a2. You've got the king down here. Keep him down here because you've got your pawn. You can bump it in. b6. f2 check. King h1. Rook a1. Now pinning the bishop to the king, threatening to take his piece. b7. The race is on. Very interesting. However, rook takes f1 mate. So that's one way it could have ended. So Fischer had the upper hand. Spassky was right in resigning. And we ended up getting Bobby Fischer the world chess champion. So anyway, there is a wonderful game for basic solid chess from Bobby Fischer. Playing his games cannot do anything but help us all. So enjoy your day. Hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next video. I've got some other stuff coming up. I've been thinking about my New Year's resolutions for chess, and I've got some good ones. It's going to be a good year next year. One, I'm going to make 50,000 chess videos. All right, I'm slightly exaggerating. Not much, though. I'll see you next time.